Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
What's up, Anthony? It's I feel like it's been like forever since you've been here.
Friday, it's been a little bit. Some things have happened. We've had the NBA weekend. We've had a trade. We've had a whole bunch of things happen. Now we're for the football. We're all the way back here. Talk about a few different players. Talk about Jay Cutler and how nobody seems to love him. Jay Cutler gets no love. Jimmy Garoppolo gets all the love.
Oh, he gets all the love.
And then you get a couple of different things where Tyrod Taylor doesn't know if anybody loves him, if he's going to stay in Buffalo, whether he goes. But we'll get into all that in a second. Like I said, we start off with Jay Cutler. Basically, the Bears aren't happy with him. They are probably going to cut him. Like, they're trying to trade him, but it's also one of those scenarios where maybe he gets traded, maybe he doesn't, because you have to do a couple of different things. If you trade for him, A, you take on the salary, which isn't small. Then B, if you do trade for him, you have to give up, say, a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick for him. Or you can just wait for them to cut him, and then once you cut him, you sign him for veteran minimum, and you don't have to give up a draft pick. So they're basically doing a push and pull kind of thing right now. The Bears are. They're like, hey, do you want Jay Cutler? And everyone's just like, no, it's fine. You keep him. I'll stay right here. And, whether or not he actually stays with the Bears or goes to, your Niners, whether he goes to the Texans, whether he goes to even the Chiefs or something like that, that'll all be figured out soon enough. But, it's not that I feel bad for Cutler, because I think Cutler gets a bad rap because of his face.
Yeah.
Well, no, what I mean by that is
No, I know what you mean. You mean by his expressions on the field, his expressions on the sidelines. So I know what you mean by that.
Well, it's the same thing of sometimes you can say someone has RBF, right? Resting bleep face, right? It's one of those things. He has that basically, as a quarterback, right? It's I don't know if he cares if he throws an interception, but his face just looks like, okay. Well, he got the ball this time. Okay, that's fine. We'll get it back. And he doesn't look like he cares at all. And you basically, for PR purposes more than anything else, you want to see the guy that's just like, oh my God, I gamble like, Tom Brady, looking like he's going to, choke everybody out on the sideline if he throws an interception, right? You want that rah-rah guy, and Jay Cutler's not that guy. Plus, he's 33 years old. We've seen him now for a decade. We know what he is. He's someone who is super talented, has a giant, strong arm, also makes dumb decisions. It can be both things. He can also be the guy that will win you a game or two because he can fit it through those tight windows, and you're like, wow, he's super talented. We need to get him. We need to keep him. And then in the next game, he'll throw 3 interceptions, 2 of them for, pick sixes. And all of a sudden, you're like, why did we trade for you? You are the worst thing that ever happened. Both things happen. And the Bears had talent at one time, right? You had him, Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte, all these people. Now it's just basically him, and, you do have a good running back now, but it's kind of the defense is so bad, as good as the offense is, you can't, just because you have Alshon Jeffrey and Howard, that doesn't mean all of a sudden it makes up for his bad defense, which is kind of ironic for the Bears. But the team is kind of in disarray right now. You fired coaches. Now you're kind of in the situation where you don't know what to do. You got this quarterback. We might as well get rid of him and just kind of bottom out. Now you're just trying to figure out where he can go. Is he a good fit here? Is he a good fit there? Do we let him go? And that's kind of the situation, unfortunately, that they're at right now.
Yeah, and I'm surprised by the fact that the Bears are trying to trade him. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, when you're one of these teams that needs a quarterback, it's the Browns. They needed a quarterback since 2002 or 2000, even longer.
Since they got back to Cleveland.
Exactly. And you got the 49ers who don't even have a quarterback on the roster right now.
Not a good one, at least.
And no, Colin Kaepernick's going to opt out. So technically, they have no quarterbacks at all.
Sure.
Blaine Gabbert, Kristen Ponder, Thad Lewis. All free agents. Those scream out inspiration there.
How did you – hold on. Just real quick. Let's backtrack for a second. We're going to get back to Jay Cutler in a second. How does your team have no quarterbacks? How is that actually a thing?
They signed Blaine Gabbert to a 2-year contract, I think, 2 years ago, obviously.
Right, and now that's expired.
And then they restructured Kaepernick's
Like, how
contract with the opt-out clause this year, and then Thad Lewis was on a 1-year deal, and when Thad Lewis got hurt, then they got Christian Ponder on a 1-year deal. So,
like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying like you have to go in.
They have no quarterbacks in the roster. Like how, and I kind of do like have the same question as you. Like, how do you have no quarterbacks on your team heading to 2017?
Like, at least go in with a bad one. When I say a bad one, like Blaine. Like, just go in with a bad one to where it's just
There's
like
no way Blaine's coming back.
No. I'm not saying with Blaine specifically. I'm just saying that, like, even if you had like Matt Schaub on your team, it's like, okay, he stinks, but he's the backup, and if all goes to hell, he's going to come in for a game or two as a spot starter to help out. That's fine. You have nobody, and I guess it's not that hard to find a backup quarterback. Like, you can just kind of go around the league, go find. I mean, basically anybody you could basically think of. Find a McCown brother, go knock on Johnny Manziel's door or something like that. Charlie Whitehurst, see if he still wants to play football. Like, all these different things you can find.
No, there's better options than those 3 guys you just named.
Well, I'm fine, but I'm just saying, like, get a quarterback. Like,
yeah, I know
because you're hoping basically you get a good quarterback in the draft, or you get one of these, Tony Romo, Jimmy Garoppolo kind of players, right? But that's just anyway. So back to Jay Cutler.
Okay.
Sorry, like, it's one of those things.
It's
like I didn't even realize that about us. Like, you don't have a quarterback.
No.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't even know that. But back to Jay Cutler here. Like, when you look at the teams that need a quarterback, I just stated, the Browns, the 49ers.
Right.
Well, technically the Bears kind of need one now. They've been needing one for, I think 2 years now.
The Texans.
But come on. The Texans, I think, are more likely to get Tony Romo.
You could argue.
And I think they can potentially get Jimmy Garoppolo, too, or they can get one in the draft. I think getting one in the draft at 25 or getting Romo is more likely. They're a contending team, so I do think Tony Romo will be the perfect guy to have there. When I look at all the teams that need quarterbacks, including the Jets as well, do you really want to trade a draft pick or anything for Jay Cutler? Like, to me, Jay Cutler has not proven he's worthy of any type of trade. We've seen him from the Bears in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since he came into the league, okay, he's been to an NFC championship game. Okay, cool, I get him that. He is first in a lot of Bears categories, like completion percentage, passing yards, and touchdowns. But when you looked at his overall career in Chicago, I think it's kind of a disaster. I think it's a disaster, Anthony. He just he proves he's not a leader, and when you're a quarterback in the NFL, you need to be a leader. He just doesn't scream that to me. I think he's going to go to a bad team. All right, he's going to go to a bad team, and I do think it's going to get even worse for Cutler. Whoever gets Cutler, I think it's going to be even worse for that franchise. So, if I had to pick a team that he would go to, I think. A likely scenario, I think he can probably go to the Jets or the 49ers. I think those are 2 teams that would consider him, but I don't think they will consider trading for him.
Sure, yeah, that's the thing, because you don't want to take on all that money, right? It's one of those things that, do you want to take on all this money and lose a pick that could be of value, or do you want to just basically roll the dice that you can pick him up? And it's like I said, it's not this Tony Romo, this is someone that everybody's banging down his door trying to get him. It's Jay Cutler. We've seen Jay Cutler, and some teams will be interested, but the teams that are interested in him will probably be bad. Like, I don't think the Texans are going to look out for him. Honestly, the one team that I wouldn't be surprised to grab, a quarterback for the Texans, like a team that wouldn't surprise me, is if they went after Garoppolo. If the Texans went after Garoppolo.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me either.
Because that's a situation where the Texans, their pick isn't high, right? It's not like it's, a pick like the Browns or the Niners or something like that, but they literally have Will Fork, who just retired from the team, but you got Bill O'Brien, Vrabel, I think Wes Welker just took a role with the team. Like, you have all these former Patriots on the team, and Bill Belichick could just be like, all right, it's out of the division, same conference, but out of the division, here, you take Garoppolo, something like that. And with Jay Cutler, I mean, like, unless you are like close to winning, like I don't think Denver would like touch him with a 10-foot pole. Like I don't think Denver's like, nah, we're good.
No,
like
they'd be like, nah, son, we already went down that road.
Like we already took a quarterback once on the free agency. That worked out so well for us. We're gonna not do that with you because you're nowhere near how good Peyton Manning is. But because I'm looking at the teams, the only teams that I can think of that would actually take him are the bad ones, right? Because the Browns, sure, the Browns might take him. The Niners, sure, they might take him. Jacksonville, I mean, how much better is he than Blake Bortles? You know,
I'd rather take Blake Bortles than Cutler right now.
Oh, Blake Bortles is so bad, though. He's so bad.
Because I'm going to tell you why I'd rather have Blake Bortles. Okay,
So
first of all, Jay Cutler is 33 years old. We already seen what type of quarterback he is. Blake Bortles, I do think we've seen some good in him. I still think he's young enough, but I think Blake Bortles is kind of going to make or break year. And if he's bad again, I think the Jaguars are going to cut him. I think they're going to give him one more year.
If you were the Bills, would you trade for him?
For Cutler?
Jay Cutler.
If I'm the Bills,
if you're the Bills, not trade for him, but like, would you pick him up? Right?
I would consider it because he does have the type of arm for the type of receivers. You got Sammy Watkins. I think if they bring another receiver in there, I would actually like that. They have a top 5 running back in LaShawn McCoy. I still think he plays that way. Sammy Watkins, if he can stay healthy, he can be a really great receiver. I think he can even to me he's still young enough to reach that potential. I do think if they bring in another receiver there, I can see it working out because I do think that defense is good enough to play. We've seen it. It's just that they just had trouble finding a quarterback, and with they might keep Tyrod Taylor, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see the Bills considering Jay Cutler as well.
And there's some teams like that, like maybe Arizona. Basically, if Carson Palmer starts to go south, maybe you bring in Jay Cutler as like a kind of, okay, we still have a talented team. Let's see what we can do. We got Larry Fitzgerald on his basically last few years with the team. There's a couple of like interesting places that he could go, and it's a fun thing because the dude is talented. As much as we want to like rip Jay Cutler, we rip on Jay Cutler because he's an easy target, but the dude does have talent. It's just he's never put it all together kind of thing, right? But like we've at least seen him, with flashes or whatever, that if you put him in the right situation, he could do well. And maybe that's just him being in a more successful team. Maybe that's, him being back in New York with Brandon Marshall and Matt Forte. Like, who knows? Maybe he'll just feel comfortable in certain places. Or maybe he goes in there and it's total nuclear disaster and he throws 5 interceptions in the first game and the fans boo him from the gate. Either way, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
Jay Cutler is the type of quarterback that will throw 5 interceptions and still has the ability to win a game. That's a good and bad thing.
Right, yeah. Right, it's like, we can still win the game. Also, why did you throw 5 picks? How did you throw 5? Why don't you look like you're sad that you threw 5 picks? Why is your face not moving? Why do you still have that same face? Why do you have a cigarette in your mouth right now? Why are all these things happening? Jay, right here. Eyes, right here. Why are you... Okay, you're not going to look at me. Okay, cool, let's go. Let's win this game.
Okay, so do you expect Jay Cutler to be traded, or do you think he's going to be released?
Because it's
I think he's going to be released too.
Because once it's out there that a team basically is either looking to trade somebody or is thinking about cutting them, you're not getting good value for them. Like once you have to like surprise people with these whole things, right? The Jamie Collins thing with the Patriots, like that came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it's like, oh wow, look what they got for him. Sam Bradford out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he traded him. You basically have to, not have it announced basically that you guys are looking to shop this player, because once that happens, especially with the biggest his contract is, team's going to be like, yeah, and it's Cutler too. Like this isn't Tony Romo. Even Tony Romo might get cut. If Tony Romo's going to get cut, and he's got probably the most value of any quarterback, Cutler's going to get cut too, probably.
Yeah, it definitely, and I do agree with that. I do think the only quarterback that will be traded is probably Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right, yeah, because
the thing about him, he only has 1 year on his contract, but we'll talk about that later in the show. But I do, if you had to pick a team for Jay Cutler, who would you pick?
I would honestly say a middle of the road team. Like I wouldn't say like the Browns or the Niners, because I think they're going to go more in the draft with that aspect. And when I say middle of the pack, I mean something like the Jets. Someone's like their defense is, pretty good. Their offense isn't terrible, but they just need like a quarterback to help. Like I can see the Jets as much as anything. And like I said, that also may reunite him if he stays on the team with Brandon Marshall and Matt Forte, and that could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I kind of like that scenario for Jay Cutler. He did say that there's a chance that Matt Forte may not be on the team. Brandon Marshall may not be on the team, but he also got Eric Decker there. You got Bilal Plow, who I think could take over the starting running back role next season. So I do like that. That's probably, out of all the bad teams, that's probably the most talented one on paper.
Right.
So that I would like that as well. I did say Tony Romo will end up there, but that was a bold prediction.
Sure.
But I do think Tony Romo will end up in either Houston or Kansas City, but I do think Houston is the more likelier team. But, I can see him ending up in New York. All right, well, we're going to take our first break here, and when we get back, we're going to talk about Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, we're talking about all quarterbacks today, Anthony. All quarterbacks. So we're going to discuss Tyrod Taylor, some news about the Buffalo Bills quarterback, when we get back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, and we're sticking with a theme today with quarterbacks. We talked about Jay Cutler and how the Bears are actively shopping the quarterback there. But now we're going to talk about Tyrod Taylor because, he's been kind of, he's been, so to speak, it's kind of, we're not really sure what the Bills are going to do with Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
He does have an option. He's set to make a lot of money. And, I think it's possible now that Tyrod Taylor could practically stay in Buffalo because, he did get cleared. He believe he passed the physical, Anthony. Am I correct?
Yeah, he passed the physical, so now basically because there was a situation before where he didn't have to stay with the team, but if he got cut, they gave him $27 million, $27.5 million, and that would be guaranteed no matter what happened. But that was if he didn't pass the physical, right? That was if they basically decided, yeah, never mind, you can go. And he's like, okay, that's fine, but you still owe me my money. Now that he basically passed the physical, now they're in the situation where if they cut him, not the same thing with the money. Now they can cut him, and they'll probably still owe him money, but it's not that giant, oh, my God, this is so much money, whatever, you can just stay on the team. It's not worth it kind of thing. So now you throw a monkey wrench in the situation to where it's maybe now all of a sudden you want to keep him on the team, or maybe you want to cut him. Maybe you have more options now. And, we saw before they weren't exactly so super happy to keep him on the team. They may cut him now, which now we just talked about Jay Cutler in the last segment. Now all of a sudden if you get Tyrod Taylor on the market, he's not, like I said, Tony Romo, but I'd probably take him over Jay Cutler.
Oh, I definitely would take Tyrod Taylor over Jay Cutler. You got to be kidding me. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Tyrod Taylor was a pretty good quarterback. Again, he's not someone who's just oh my God, why have we not taken you before? But at the same time, if you just kind of look at what he did, he's someone that was pretty good for a Bills team that you didn't really have that much expectations for. He only threw 17 touchdowns, but he only threw 6 interceptions, and he did a lot of good things for the Bills. He made the team a lot better than you thought it would be. They were 7-9, but name me a time where you felt confident about Sammy Watkins being able to play a game, because he'll go into the season, it's all right, we got Sammy Watkins, all right, this is going to be great. Why is his hamstring hurting again? Why is he going out on the field?
Why? Why?
Yeah,
I do think the thing about Tyrod Taylor is that he never had the confidence of the front office.
Right.
The only guy...
He had confidence of Rex.
Exactly. The only guy that liked Tyrod Taylor, the only guy that had his back in that building, he's no longer there, and that is Rex Ryan, what you just said. So, just think about the quarterbacks that the Bills had before Tyrod was there. They drafted EJ Manuel in probably the worst quarterback draft I've ever seen. Like, if you think, look at all those quarterbacks that got drafted in the first round that year. None of them panned out. None of them at all. I think except for Teddy Bridgewater was in that draft, right?
Teddy Bridgewater was in that draft. I think that was the draft that had Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. Look at all those quarterbacks. The only one that is still on their team is Teddy Bridgewater, but he's injured.
Right.
He's injured. None of them have panned out the way that the teams have thought they would. Look at the Bills quarterbacks even before that. They drafted J.P. Lossman in a fully stacked quarterback draft that included Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phil Rivers. And the only quarterback they can find is J.P. Lossman, who wasn't in the league, after 3 years. So they've been in disarray in the quarterback position for a long time. So the Bills, they need to make sure that they can get their guy this year. Because I do think Tyrod Taylor was the perfect placeholder quarterback. I never thought he was going to be that franchise guy. And I think he can be really good as a starter in this league. To me, he can be a really good mid-tier starter. I don't think he can ever be like the franchise guy, so to speak.
But here's the thing. Would you rather have him on your team or would you rather have Brock Osweiler?
I'd rather have Tyrod Taylor based on basically what he's done. Because Brock Osweiler has a great team around him, and he hasn't been able to do anything with that team.
And then all of a sudden, now you get a better quarterback. Now with J.J. Watt coming back, all of a sudden that defense and that team looks a lot better now. And also, we kind of got to go back a little bit. The E.J. Manuel draft, it wasn't the Johnny Manziel draft. Now, with that being said, terrible draft class. Start off, E.J. Manuel, 16th overall. Next quarterback, Geno Smith, 39 overall. He's terrible. Next quarterback, Mike Glennon. He's no good. Next quarterback, Matt Barkley. He had 2 good games this year, and then he reverted back to being crap. Ryan Nassib, whatever, out of Syracuse. He's no good. Tyler Wilson. I don't think he's still in the league. Landry Jones. He's a backup for Pittsburgh. He stinks. Brad Sorensen. Don't know who you are.
He used to be for he got drafted by the Chargers.
He sounds like the quarterback from Friday Night Lights.
Matt Saracen? That's who I thought it was.
You drafted a fictional quarterback. That's a good job by you, Chargers. All right, good job. You got Phillip Rivers. You want to draft the fictional quarterback? Zach Desert, B.J. Daniels, Sean Renfrey. Those were the quarterbacks in that draft. That is a terrible.
That was the worst draft.
Terrible.
That's the worst draft.
At least Manziel had potential, and it's oh yeah, maybe he could have panned out if he didn't basically like to party every day all the time. And like you're talking about Bridgewater, it wasn't the same draft, but at least that draft, you had the situation where he was talented, and the only reason he's not playing right now is because his knee basically went boom.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, that draft class with EJ Manuel was the worst I've ever seen. It is a lot worse than this year.
That's so bad, man.
If you look at all the quarterbacks in this year's class, I'd rather have any of those guys over the people in 2013?
Yeah, 2013 draft.
That was horrendous class.
I get the fact that drafting a quarterback is kind of a risky thing and it's kind of hit or miss. Dude, the first quarterback taken was 16th overall. So that tells you that no quarterback was good because they'll always kind of, talk themselves into we're going to draft, we'll draft the quarterback 1 overall. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, Jared Goff. Yeah, you'll be great. No, but we're going to draft you number 1 overall. It's fine. They waited until 16. You had, by the way, that's a draft that had 3 offensive tackles in the first 4 picks. 3. That is the most boring draft I've ever heard of in my life. Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, and Lane Johnson. All of them, no good. Now you get...
Only 2. You know what's funny? Only 2 of those guys have worked out. I think Jokel for the Jaguars has been he's been moved around the offensive line a lot.
He's still on the team, and then, Eric Fisher's still on the team. Lane Johnson's still on the team, but it's no Pro Bowls for any of them. And then you get in the middle of that, the Miami Dolphins, they took Deion Jordan, the 3rd overall pick. I'm a Dolphins fan. He's doesn't play. You want to know why he doesn't play? Because he got suspended. And also, when he did play, he was so bad. And that was
a pretty bad class.
That was
who is the star in this draft class?
Honestly, so they'll highlight things for Pro Bowlers, right? Ezekiel Ansah was a defensive end that went to the Detroit Lions with the 5th overall pick. He's only been to 1 Pro Bowl. He's not bad. Sheldon Richardson, pretty good. Eric Reed, Kyle Long, Tyler Eifert, Desmond Trufant, Xavier Woods, DeAndre Hopkins. Hey, my boy. Cordell Patterson, Travis Frederick. He might be the best one. Travis Frederick, the center for the Cowboys. Le'Veon Bell was in the 2nd round. Jamie Collins, Eddie Lacy, Travis Kelce, Tyrann Mathieu. All these people came later in the draft. But, in the 1st round, Sheldon Richardson, honestly, probably is the best one out of that draft. But, that draft is really bad. Woo.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But getting back to Tyrod Taylor here, Ian Rappaport actually reported that the Bills and Tyrod Taylor could possibly redo the contract.
Sure.
Kind of smooth out salary cap issues without the quarterback taking a pay cut. So maybe there is a chance for Tyrod Taylor to stay with the Bills. But honestly, I think the writing's on the wall. I think they want to find a franchise guy. They're not going to get it this year. I think they're going to be one of those teams that tries to go after one of the quarterbacks. Me, though, I think it's a possibility that the Bills can draft Deshaun Watson at 10. Maybe Mitch Trubisky at 10 if he doesn't go anywhere in the top 10.
Right.
So I do think there's a good chance that the Bills will get a quarterback there to find their guy of the future. And I do think it can be a potential good spot for them. This team's not going to be successful right away with a new rookie quarterback. They're just not.
No.
I just don't think any of these guys are NFL ready. But I do think this is a team that really wants to find their franchise guy, but they're not going to get it this year. So, it remains to be seen, and it's going to be very interesting what direction the Bills will go to this offseason. But I think they should just stick with Tyrod Taylor for a little longer. I just think they should.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should. He's medically cleared. He's healthy. I do think that's a positive sign. And I do think if you can get Sammy Watkins healthy, if you get this whole team healthy, this team will be fine. I do think they got very solid pieces in this offense. To me, they got a top 5 running back in LaShawn McCoy. He played like a top 5 running back.
Yeah, no, it's a good team kind of all around. It's just it's whether or not the basically front office, supports him or not. That's the thing that's going to be the barrier for him. And if they bring in somebody else, then all of a sudden you got to deal with, maybe now they can get good. If, Tony Romo all of a sudden decides to go there, then all of a sudden it's a playoff team. If, trying to think if, Garoppolo's not going to go there because you're not going to trade in your division. But, if you can get a good quarterback there, then all of a sudden you kind of look at them, the Dolphins and obviously the Patriots, because it's the Patriots. Then you got 3 teams that have a solid chance of making the playoffs, and it's going to be a pretty fun AFC East.
Yeah, and I do think if Tyrod Taylor is not with the Bills next season, I do think he's going to be a starter for another team. There's just...
for sure.
He's been a starter for the last 2 years. I just can't see Tyrod Taylor not being a starter. There's a lot... I can probably see him going to the Browns, but that probably will hurt his career. I can definitely see him going to Niners working with Kyle Shanahan, but I think Kyle Shanahan wants a pure pocket passer in his offense.
Yeah.
We've seen what he can do with those type of guys. I do think the Jets could be a possibility, but that's just as a dumpster fire of a front office as the Bills are.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think he will be on the team. It's just kind of tough to speculate because I do think Jay Cutler. I think Jay Cutler is going to be on the team before Tyrod Taylor, which is horrendous because I think Tyrod Taylor is a better quarterback now than Jay Cutler. But it's just interesting to see Anthony.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our last break here, and we're going to get into some Jimmy Garoppolo talk. We're going to talk about the Patriots quarterback when we get back to the Goals to Me Concepts Football podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the Guns to Me Contest Football Podcast, and it's time to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. Anthony, yesterday I did talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, and I did say that this has to be the year that Patriots should make a move on him.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I said that was because, with the DeMarcus Cousins trade, it kind of really made me think maybe DeMarcus Cousins should have been traded maybe a little sooner. We got more for him.
You should probably never compare the Kings and the New England Patriots.
I didn't want to do that, but I did it anyway. But I did bring that point up because, I do think if the Patriots want some sort of value, they got to trade him now because he's going to be a free agent in 2018. So anyways, the reason why we're talking about him again is because Bleach Report, has reported that, Jimmy Garoppolo could be potentially part of a blockbuster trade offer. So when you think of all the teams that need a quarterback, the Browns, the Bears, and the Niners, all three of them are picking in the top three. So when I think of blockbuster trade, are you going to throw the first round pick in there? Maybe. So to me, I don't think Garoppolo is worth the top 5 pick at all. I just don't. I think you can give the Patriots a second round pick and possibly another player on your team. But then again, that may be kind of overreaching a little bit because this is a guy that's only going to be on contract for 1 year.
You think? Well, hold on. You think actually the Garoppolo is only going to get a second round pick for him?
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying that's the worth.
No, Sam Bradford got a first and a fourth. Bradford, he stinks. He got a first and a fourth.
That's something I still don't understand.
That's basically the Vikings panicking because like I said, Bridgewater's knee went boom. And they were just like, well, we're still a good team and we want to win, so let's take Sam Bradford. That's luck more than anything else. But if you can get a first and a fourth for Sam Bradford, you can get some good stuff for Jimmy Garoppolo because we saw Jimmy Garoppolo. He was pretty – he wasn't Tom Brady, obviously, but he was pretty good when given the opportunity. He beat the Cardinals, and yes, I know the Cardinals stunk last year.
No, he was good in 2 games, but I just don't think he's worth a top 5 pick. I just don't. I do think you can get someone valuable at those spots there in the draft. And don't get me wrong, none of the quarterbacks are worth the top 5 pick either. But I think that might be overreaching. If you're going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, if you're one of those 3 teams, you better make an agreement to sign him long term because that's the only way that would work out.
Obviously, that's fine, and they can control a lot more stuff. They can just franchise him or whatever. There's a lot of things you can do once you get a quarterback under contract. But the thing is, with a quarterback, if his quarterback's good, honestly, name me the last time where a quarterback has been good and was able to be available. Romo's only available because of the whole thing that Dak Prescott's good and Romo has a bad back. The only reason that Peyton Manning was available is because he had a trick neck and they got Andrew Luck. There's always been a circumstance where, okay, we have this quarterback, but the one coming up we trust more. Brett Favre left because you had Aaron Rodgers. All these things happen because you have a younger, better player. Garoppolo's kind of the reverse of that, but also Tom Brady, as we saw in the Super Bowl, or the second half of the Super Bowl, he's so good and he can basically be the cheat code where it basically erases all the bad things you have on the team. Oh, you don't have good receivers? Cool, Tom Brady will help you out. Oh, you don't have a good defense? It's cool, Tom Brady will help you out. Oh, you don't have this or that? Yeah, it's cool, Tom Brady will help you out. So you can rely on him for another few years, and Garoppolo's looking, as valuable as anybody else because I was talking to Ben about this on the sports podcast. Okay, Andrew Luck was in the 12 NFL draft, right? And when he came out, everyone was just like, yeah, number 1 overall pick, take him, period, end of story, cool, awesome, draft him. Since that time, there's only been one quarterback that's been basically anointed as like, oh, excuse me, oh yeah, no, take him in the first round, and that's Jameis. Like everybody else, from Bortles to Mariota even to Jared Goff, like all of them have been kind of, yeah, we're going to take him in the first round, but you never were like 100% sure it was going to take, right? Mariota came from that weird Oregon style. Jared Goff was like a big old passing offense over in Cal. Like you've always had these things where like, yeah, you're going to take him in the first round, but you're not like set. And none of these quarterbacks here, Trubisky, Watson, none of them are like, oh, yeah, no, absolutely take him. Like, you haven't heard anybody say, like, oh, no, take him, you're good. Like, there's some people that love him, some people that hate him, no matter who the quarterback is. So, if all these things are the same, right, if it's basically a guessing game, and you really have no way of knowing whether these quarterbacks are going to be good or not, why not take the dude who we've literally seen in NFL games? I understand it's with the Patriots, and that's kind of a, fountain of youth. All of a sudden you look much better than you would anywhere else. It kind of, raises your game, but we actually saw him do well. So maybe not the first pick or the second pick, but the Browns got the 12th pick, and it's still a first-round pick. Give that to the Patriots. For the Browns, trade down a little bit, acquire a bunch of assets. You got the dude who's over there with Moneyball. Do the whole, trade down, get a lot of picks thing for that number 1 overall pick, trade the 12th for a quarterback. Now you got a rebuild starting, and I think that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, I do think the most likely team to get Garoppolo, regarding a trade in, the draft is the Browns because of that 12th overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I would trade the 12th overall pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. I would not trade the number 1 pick for him, no. That's a whole different ballgame right there.
No, you're going to give the Patriots the number 1 pick and a Super Bowl?
You kidding me? Yeah, the rich get richer, and then they'll probably will take Myles Garrett.
That would be the funniest thing if they got the first overall pick, and they were just like, oh yeah, we're going to take him. Yeah, Myles Garrett, yeah, we're going to take him. You don't want to trade down? No, we're good.
I'll be like,
Garrett, we're going to take him.
That would be, man.
Like if the Patriots are the thing where it's just
I would be mind blown.
Like if you basically said like, we'll give you Garoppolo and our first round pick for your number 1 overall pick and call it like a 4th round pick or something like that, right? Basically do all these different things. Like, yeah, and then all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, we'll take Myles Garrett. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll take him. God, the best quarterback, the best defensive player in the draft.
Probably the best overall player.
Yeah, like, we're going to take him. And Garrett, who wanted to go to the Cowboys, is probably like, well, I mean, okay. He's just like,
well, they did draft me, so I guess I gotta go.
Sorry, Jerry. I'm just saying that like I did want these things, and that's fine. But I'm gonna go over here. Just you have fun, do whatever you feel is best. I'm going over here, and I'm gonna try to win a Super Bowl with this team.
All right. Well, wow. Okay. Well, okay. I kind of want to leave off on this note. Okay. So we do agree that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get traded. I just don't see anything that.
Yeah, I don't think it's smart for them to keep the pick.
That's why
to keep him. Sorry.
And I do think we agree that he's better than any of the quarterbacks in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we're split on is he's worth a top 5 pick. I don't think he's worth a top 5 pick. Maybe the number 12 in the middle of the pack type of pick. But no,
it all depends on what you think he could be.
And I do think the Texans could be a possible suitor as well because they do have that 25th pick in the draft, and that's a pretty high pick, and most of those players in the 20 to 30 range typically don't really work out a whole lot historically.
And also there's like saying like you have the situation with the Texans where you have all these former Patriots. You have Vrabel, you have I'm trying to think who else on the team.
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien's the coach. Wes Welker is going to be like an assistant on the team. Like, you have all these, like, former Patriots who are on the team, so, Belichick can just, like, call up Vrabel and be like, hey, we're going to trade this. Put Bill on the phone. Put O'Brien on the phone. Bill. Yeah, this is Bill. Okay, we're going to trade. Yeah, you want Garoppolo? All right, cool. Give us your first-round pick. Yeah? All right, cool. Good talk.
There you go. Done deal. So enough with the speculation here.
Sure.
Ian Rappaport said that, not Ian Rappaport, Mike Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Did say that teams are, they're preparing blockbuster offers for Garoppolo. So, What team is Garoppolo playing for, Anthony? Your opinion. Who is he going to play for?
Like, you want me to, like, make a pick right now? Like, he will play for, just, like, off the top of my head. Like,
give me, a list of teams you think. I think he would. I think he's going to go to Chicago because of the Illinois connection. He did play Eastern Illinois there. I kind of think that's a possible destination. He's an Illinois boy. He's a hometown boy, and I do think he could possibly go there.
Browns, Niners, Texans, one of those three teams he's going to go to. It all depends who gives him the best offer. Like I said, the Browns will be the 12th pick. So the Patriots, if they got the second overall pick from the Niners, then it'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe we can take Garrett again. Maybe Garrett doesn't get, maybe a quarterback gets the number one pick. Maybe Trubisky gets the number one overall pick. And then there's like, oh, we get Garrett at number 2? Okay, cool. Garrett, come here. I think it's one of those three teams. I think it's either, because I don't think the Jets, because they're not going to trade in the division. It's not going to be the Bills, again, in the division. I don't think it's going to be the Cardinals, because I think they're going to run with Carson Palmer probably one more year, and I don't think it's going to be a team like the Chiefs, right? And that's, even though they got like Pioli on that team, I don't think they would do something like that. I think they would go more of a veteran Tony Romo if they're going to go totally away from Alex Smith. So that doesn't leave that many options available, right? Like, if it's not going to be a team that has sort of a quarterback like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Arizona Cardinals, if it's not going to be a team in the division like the Bills or the Jets, it basically only leaves a handful of teams available, right? Unless you basically think that the, team like the Denver Broncos would kind of swoop in and all of a sudden want him. Like, maybe that's the case, but you've already got young quarterbacks. At this point, I don't think you want to like risk that defense on a young quarterback. You might as well go with a veteran quarterback at that point. Unless Kirk Cousins' situation in Washington goes like super south and all of a sudden he hates it and won't re-sign there and they trade him away, like, I just think it's got to be one of those teams, either the Browns because of those connection with Belichick back in the day with the Browns, the Niners just because the Niners are going to want a quarterback and, whatever, I'll take Garoppolo instead of Trubisky because I at least know how good he's going to be, or the Texans because all those connections I talked about earlier. Like, I think it's going to be one of those three teams.
So you say the Browns, the Niners, and the Texans.
Yeah.
I'm going to add the Bears on there. I think those are the four teams.
Maybe.
I have to add the Bears on there because I just think there's something about that Illinois connection there. There has to be something. And, they are going to go away from Cutler. I think they got a good running back in Jordan Howard. They do got some rebuilding in that offense. They need to get some receivers because there's no way I can see Alshon Jeffrey staying there. He's not going to re-sign there at all. He's a free agent. I do think he's going to have his pick. But I would say the Browns because they got that 12th pick. The Niners because they're just in disarray. And I do think Kyle Shanahan wants a quarterback, even though he does say he wants to take his time. But, I don't know. I just think he wants to find someone that he can build around. The Bears, I do think they want someone they can build around as well. They are moving away from Jay Cutler, and I do think they're in full rebuild mode right now.
Right.
And the Texans, because, they got the 25th pick, and they got a good team. So I do think that will be a possibility. So if he goes to Houston, Jimmy Garoppolo, I do think that he can be really good there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they better hope that he does well because I don't think they want another reclamation project again.
Right.
I don't think they want two of them on the same team.
No, probably not.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude our show. And tomorrow we'll talk about anything that happens over the next 24 hours. And, you can catch – we're going to be here every day.
Yes, we will.
We're going to be here every day. Anthony will be back tomorrow.
Yes, I will.
I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe. I'm kidding.
You will be here tomorrow.
No, I will be here tomorrow.
I will find you. I will go to your house. You're going to come here and not do this by myself. I'm going to be here too.
All right. Well, I thank you guys for tuning into the Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And you guys have a good day. Come back tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.